Today we're digging into something pretty specific. We're looking at sources that show some, well, very direct public pressure from former President Donald Trump, aimed squarely at his Attorney General Pam Bondi. And it's all about pushing for the prosecution of political rivals.
That's right. It's not just talk. We've got article excerpts detailing these demands and what happened inside the Justice Department right after. So our mission here is to really unpack who was targeted, why the former president said it had to happen, and the immediate fallout, like personnel changes. For you listening, it's a clear window into how public statements can, well, trigger very quick internal actions.
What strikes me immediately is the intensity, the language used, and the fact it was all done so publicly. This wasn't some quiet memo, was it? It was loud.
Not at all. It was like a public decree aimed right at the AG.
Okay, so let's start there. The delivery method and the actual message. So the sources say the main channel was Truth Social, his own platform.
Yeah.
And he addressed Pam Bondi directly, by name.
Directly. And the complaint wasn't vague. He tied it directly to his administration's image.
Right. He said the lack of prosecutions was, what, killing our reputation and credibility.
To exactly that phrasing, which kind of reframes the Justice Department's role around political standing, doesn't it?
It really does. And it wasn't just a suggestion for later.
No, not at all. The speed demanded is what's really notable here. You know, federal cases usually take time. Evidence gathering, deliberation.
Months, years sometimes.
Right. But the quote provided in the source material, it's in all caps, totally contradicts that pace. He apparently wrote, "We can't delay any longer. Justice must be served now."
3 exclamation points, all caps. You can almost hear it. It's a demand for right now.
Yeah, immediate resolution, not start an investigation when you can.
And the article connects this to broader comments he made too, right? To reporters.
It does. He basically doubled down on the urgency, saying something like, one way or the other, they're guilty, they're not guilty, we have to act fast.
And we have to do it now. It sets this really tight deadline, almost a panic button for the DOJ.
It does, a sort of zero-sum game. And if you connect this demand for speed to, well, who he was targeting, it makes a certain kind of political sense.
Okay, let's unpack that. The targets. The article names 3 specific people Trump wanted Bondi to go after.
Yes, 3 individuals who were, let's say, significant political adversaries.
So who were they and what's the backstory there? Why these 3?
Well, the list reads like a kind of greatest hits of figures who clashed publicly with the former president. First up, Representative Adam Schiff, Democrat from California.
Ah, Schiff. He led the first impeachment trial, the one about Ukraine pressure.
Exactly. So direct conflict there. Second, former FBI Director James Comey.
Comey, who Trump fired back in 2017, right in the middle of the Russia investigation.
Yeah.
Another clear point of friction.
Definitely. And the third is the New York Attorney General Letitia James.
Okay, and her office just recently won that huge civil fraud case against Trump's business. Big financial hit.
A very substantial judgment, yes. So you see the pattern. All 3 individuals were involved in actions that caused significant political or financial problems for the former president.
That seems like a pretty clear motivation behind the demands. But the source material adds a really important piece of information here.
It does. It notes that while Trump repeatedly accused these 3 of criminal acts,
The basis for the prosecutions he was demanding.
right, but the article states he has not provided evidence.
Okay. So accusations, public demands, but according to the source, no actual evidence presented.
And that's the core tension, isn't it? This very public demand, seemingly driven by political grievance, colliding with the basic need for, facts and legal process in the justice system.
And that collision seems to have had immediate consequences inside the DOJ.
It did. The focus shifts pretty quickly in the article to the internal fallout, specifically within the Eastern District of Virginia, the EDVA.
Right, that's a major federal district. Handles a lot of sensitive cases. So what happened there?
Well, the article draws a very direct line. It details the forced departure of Erik Siebert. He was the U.S. attorney for the EDVA. Happened on a Friday.
Forced departure. Why? What was the reason given in the source?
It was tied directly to one of those targets, Letitia James. According to the report, Siebert had apparently raised serious doubts internally about pursuing mortgage fraud charges against James.
Doubts? What kind of doubts?
He reportedly claimed, quote, that we had no case.
Wow. So a sitting U.S. attorney saying flat out there's no legal basis for a prosecution that the president is publicly demanding. That's significant.
It's a major friction point, yeah. A top prosecutor voicing skepticism.
Now, just to clarify for people listening, Why would the Virginia U.S. Attorney's Office be looking at a mortgage fraud case against the New York AG? Seems geographically odd.
Yeah, the source doesn't spell out the exact jurisdictional hook, but the implication would be that the alleged actions or assets involved somehow touched the EDVA's territory. Maybe property records or financial transactions routed through there. But regardless of those specifics, the key point the article makes is the conflict. Siebert says no case, and almost immediately he's out.
And Trump himself confirmed this conflict publicly.
Yes, using Truth Social again. The article says he directly countered Siebert's assessment. He wrote something like, "There is a great case." Again, all caps.
So making the internal disagreement completely public and basically overruling his own prosecutor's legal judgment via social media.
Pretty much. And the article then tracks what happened next with the position.
The replacement process.
Right. After Siebert was out, Trump apparently suggested he planned to nominate Lindsey Halligan for the job.
Halligan. Wasn't she one of his personal lawyers at one point?
Yeah,
And then a White House aide.
that's correct. The source does mention some ambiguity, though. It wasn't totally clear if he expected Bondi to just appoint Halligan as acting U.S. attorney right away, or if this was about a formal nomination later.
But Bondi did take action. She appointed someone.
She did, yes. The article confirms she appointed a prosecutor named Mary Maggie Cleary as the acting U.S. attorney for the EDVA.
So Cleary stepped in after Siebert's departure.
Correct. So you see the sequence laid out. Public demand, internal resistance based on lack of a case, quick removal of the resisting prosecutor, appointment of a new acting head by the AG.
It really maps out a highly reactive chain of events, doesn't it? Driven by that initial public pressure.
A clear example of administrative action following directly on the heels of political demands.
Okay, let's maybe zoom out a bit again. The article mentions that the former president, in that same Truth Social post-Manning action, also referenced his own legal situation.
He did. He specifically mentioned being impeached twice and indicted 5 times.
How does the article suggest that connects to these demands against Schiff, Comey, and James?
Well, it strongly implies that he's framing these demands, at least partly, as a kind of counterattack or a defense mechanism. Sort of, they're coming after me, so we need to go after them. It links his personal legal jeopardy to the need for DOJ action against his critics.
So it wasn't just about their supposed wrongdoing, but also about his situation.
Exactly. The pressure campaign wasn't happening in isolation. It's set against the backdrop of his own, unprecedented legal challenges. The source material actually helps clarify where those 5 indictments stood at the time of the article.
Right. What did the sources say about the status of those cases? It can get confusing for people following along.
Understandably. Okay, so according to the article, only one of those 5 indictments had actually reached a jury verdict. That was the Manhattan hush money trial.
Which resulted in convictions.
Yes, 34 felony convictions. But then, crucially, the source notes that 2 federal cases, the ones brought by special counsel Jack Smith, those were dismissed following Trump's victory in the 2024 election.
Okay, so those federal cases are off the table. Why were they dismissed, does the source say?
It doesn't go into deep legal analysis, but typically dismissals like that after an election can happen due to established policies or legal principles about prosecuting a sitting or incoming president, or perhaps specific motions filed based on the changed circumstances. The article just notes they were dismissed.
Got it. And the other cases, there was the Georgia case too.
Right, the big racketeering case in Georgia. The article mentioned that it was still unresolved and notes it was sort of bogged down in controversy surrounding the lead prosecutor's role.
So a mixed bag legally for him, but the key point here is him linking his own fights to what he wants the DOJ to do to others.
Precisely. If you put it all together, the public demand on Bondi, the specific targets, the pushback from Siebert, his removal, the new appointment, and then Trump's own comments tying it to his indictments.
Yeah.
The narrative that emerges from the source is one where personal legal defense and political grievances are being explicitly connected to the operational decisions, the day-to-day work of the Department of Justice.
They have aimed directly at his political opponents.
Yes. It looks like a very public attempt to perhaps sidestep the usual legal checks and balances, like Siebert's assessment that there was no case, and instead drive prosecutions based on political motivations and appoint people potentially more aligned with that goal.
Did the Department of Justice comment on any of this, according to the source?
The article states that the DOJ didn't immediately respond to a request for comment about these pressures.
Okay. So we've covered quite a bit based on these sources today.
We have.
Let's try to recap the main takeaways for you, the listener. First, the really extraordinary nature of these demands, public, direct, aimed at a specific Attorney General, Pam Bondi.
Second, the clear political context for the targets. Schiff, Comey, James, all figures who had directly challenged or investigated the former president.
Third, the immediate, concrete consequence inside the DOJ. A U.S. attorney expresses doubt about a demanded case and is promptly removed.
Yeah, the analysis really highlights a situation where the standard operating procedure, the independence, you could say, of a major U.S. attorney's office was directly challenged by a public, politically charged demand.
And that challenge resulted in a rapid personnel change.
Right. It shows a clear effort, as detailed in the article, to connect personal political fights and maybe even legal defense strategies directly with the actions and leadership choices within the Justice Department.
So here's something to think about, building on what we've discussed from the source material. The article shows the former president explicitly tying his own prosecutions, his own legal vulnerability, to the decisions he wants the Justice Department to make against others. He demanded justice, and now. So the final thought for you is this. What are the lasting implications for how people perceive the independence of law enforcement when prosecutorial decisions get so publicly tangled up with political credibility and personal legal battles?
Something definitely worth considering as you process this deep dive.